Now begin the Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Please join in very enthusiastically. You can clap your hands, you can sing at the top of your lungs, unless you don't have neighbors here to worry about.
No, they are all fine.
Okay.
We sing very loud. So.
Okay, yeah. Wonderful. So therefore I commend you to please let the Lord know that you really mean what you are singing, what you're saying. Let Him feel your emotions so that it is not merely just singing. This is not a time to sing. It is a time to express your heart to the Lord. Jaya Radha Madhava. Glory to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Lord Krishna engages in pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the gopis, the lifter of Govardhan Hill, the son of Mother Yashoda, and the delighter of the inhabitants of Braj. He wanders in the forest along the banks of the river Yamuna, and we all offer our humble obeisances unto him. That is the translation of Jaya Radha Madhava, so that you know what you're singing. Many songs are sung by devotees, but they don't know the meaning of what they're singing. I generally memorize them also in English, and not only do I memorize them, but in my own home sadhana, not only do I do them in the Sanskrit or Bengali, but I very much like to say them in English, because English is my language. It's the language that I understand, and I can. It's not really words which undoubtedly are spiritual words, but I can understand the meaning of these words. Then they give me direction. They give me focus. They give me somewhere to go with what I'm saying. So that's why I gave you the translation of the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers. Now you know it. Generally, it's not, very rarely is it done, but it really should be done, because we're talking about Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunjabi Hari. Glories to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Lord Krishna engages in pastimes in what? In the groves of Vrindavan. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vijayana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vijayana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. 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 Yashoda Nandana Jandaranjana Yashoda Nandana Natira Vanachari Yamnatira Vanachari Jaya Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Jandaranjana Yashoda Nandana Jandaranjana Yamnatira Vanachari Yamnatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jayanti Vipat Paramahansa Parijakacharya Astapara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prilsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamkun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Jai Mathura Dhamma Ki Jai Mayapur Navadip Dhamma Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter, the 62nd verse, and the subject or the title for today's talk is How to Attain Divine Peace and Bliss. And this verse actually pretty much zeroes in on that. So when you all have the place, please just look up and I'll know that we're ready for the verse itself.
1862.
I'm glad that you have so many books here. That's good, so that everybody could have the opportunity to follow those verses. Where the children are, can we close the door, or is it already closed?
So it is closed.
Okay, then not a problem. It's okay.
Alright.
No, we can close the door.
It's closed.
Oh, door is closed?
Oh, it's closed, that's okay. I just thought if we can, no,
I
that's
have
all
a lot of
right.
energy in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I just wonder if we could improve on it, fine. If not, not a problem. As long as they keep it a certain level, we won't.
They can go downstairs also, there is a lot of space.
Okay, so I'm going to start the verse now. Are you all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Stanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Yes, who would like to lead off?
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Tammeva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tamevam saranam gaccha.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi sashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tam eva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Sarvabhavena bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tam eva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Anyone else? Any other Mataji's? Please feel free. Go ahead.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gaccha.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Tatprasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapyasi shashvatam.
Okay. So we'll go right into the translation. I will do the translation first, and then we can do it. O Scion of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Please repeat. O Scion of Bharat,
O Scion of Bharat,
surrender unto him utterly.
surrender unto him utterly.
By his grace,
By his grace,
you will attain transcendental peace
you will attain transcendental peace
and the supreme and eternal abode.
and the supreme eternal abode.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end, he will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, the Rig Veda 1:22-20, as Tad Vishno Paramam Padam, since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. Now that's interesting. Everything material is actually spiritual. Because generally I'm going to stop here for a moment to try to just explain this little part. Because generally we tend to divide things between the spiritual energy and the material energy. As Krishna himself says in the, I think it's the 7th chapter if I'm not mistaken. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Besides these, there is another superior energy of mine, which consists of the living entities who are exploiting the resources of material inferior nature. So that's us. We are the living entities who are utilizing material nature generally for our own pleasure of one sort or another. It may be some sense pleasure, it may be the pleasure of owning or proprietorship, or the pleasure of controllership, being able to, that you control this, you can control that. Or it may be for the pleasure of having many friends who may like you, who admire you, who honor you, who respect you. This is another kind of pleasure that we seek. These are different expressions of lordship. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, know that all opulent, beautiful, excuse me, that's mixing another verse up. He said, one who knows me to be the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend of all, attains peace from the pangs of material existence. Now, why is that? Well, once you know that Krishna is supreme, then it's only logical to not compete with him any longer. It's only logical to not try to usurp his position, to make people think that you are important, that you are valuable, you are glorifiable. This does not mean that you cannot be excellent in your profession or in your ability, in your hobbies, or whatever you're doing. The important thing is that all credit, as far as you're concerned, goes to Krishna, because he's the source of everything good, everything great, everything wonderful that's coming out of you. It's a very important principle. So, as it's mentioned here, that everything is spiritual because it all comes from Krishna. And Krishna, we cannot say part of Krishna is material. He's all spiritual. He just contains within himself these two different energies. And he calls it inferior and superior. Superior, meaning the living entities, is the life, which when it is projected from the time of creation, from the supreme Purusha, from Karana Dakashayi Vishnu, when it's time for the creation to start, he projects the living entities which are within him. He projects them out, and he projects them into the material energy. Now, the material energy is in its most elementary, most basic form, which is called pradhan. If you take the atoms and you reduce them, finally all you get is the most elementary or elemental form of matter. But matter can't do anything unless there's something which activates it. In addition to the matter, you have these three different modes which are lying in a dormant state. So when the living entity enters this inferior energy, it activates the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So when those three modes are activated, they then act upon the pradhan, on matter, and different combinations are formed. And as a result of these combinations, you get earth, you get water, you get fire, you get ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So after that has been formed, the next thing is to take these elements and to form them into specific creations. Right now they're in a raw state, like clay, you know, but they don't have any shape or form. They're just in an elemental stage. So then we have to bring in Lord Brahma. So then Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, first we had Karanadakashayi Vishnu, who was lying in the causal ocean, and he then manifests another form called Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he lies in the Garbhodak ocean. You have enough room there? I see there's a lot of restlessness going on.
We can come forward.
Forward. Let's get it all done.
The Prabhu's can move on the right side.
Yeah, that's okay. I guarantee I don't bite anybody.
Yeah.
Besides, my teeth are not too sharp.
Yeah, we don't need
Thank
space.
you. Yeah, that's okay. I will give you a 1 foot, 1.5 foot margin. After that, I get terrified.
He can stay.
Are we okay now?
Right.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I thanked everybody else, so I'll extend the warm welcome to you as well. Don't forget your keys there. Okay. So, anyway, so we have Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He says Garbo because he is manifested by Karuna Dakshaya Vishnu, otherwise known as Mahavishnu, and he manifests this other form. Now I forgot to mention that Karuna Dakshaya Vishnu, when time for creation, and he breathes out all of these different universes, they come out of the pores of his skin in a seed-like form. And so when these universes are then fully developed as a result of the modes of nature acting upon the pradhan in each of these seeds, so then you get full universes, and in those universes you need a controller. So the next person that is manifested is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and he generally lies in the Garbhodak ocean, which is down at the very bottom of the universe. I won't get too much into this, but what I'm trying to indicate is that, and then let me, as long as I started this, then the next manifestation after Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he manifests another form which is known as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, he rests on the ocean of milk, and he's responsible for all the incarnations that we know about, all the different Vishnu incarnations that come into this particular world. Also, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is also known as Paramatma, or the Super Soul, who lives in everyone's heart. All the living entities who after the Lord Brahma, he creates from around the living entities, he gives them form, he gives them shape. So there will be human beings, there will be aquatics, there will be reptiles, there will be birds. 400,000 different types of human beings will come. And 900,000 aquatics will come. And then there will be birds, and there will be beasts, over 3 million beasts. So Lord Brahma is in charge of different species. He creates all of these. So these forms that we have is known as the material inferior energy. It cannot function without a soul in it. That's the important point. You take the soul out of the body is dead. The difference between a dead body and a living body is that the living body has the soul in it, and it has energy. It has some sparkle to it. You can wake it up if it's not in a coma. So the living entity is the real part. The living entity is situated in the heart area, and just beside the living entity is the Paramatma, which we just talked about, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. He's in every atom, and he's also in every human being. He's also in every fish, he's also in every monkey, he's also in every reptile, and all of these. He's come with us from the eternal world. And his function is several-fold, but the most important is to help us fulfill our desires in this material world. He is omniscient. He knows everything. And since he knows everything, he will give us guidance, give us direction. Krishna mentions, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So it is he who not only reminds us of what we wanted to achieve, possibly in a past life, but which we have not achieved, but he will help us to achieve it. He will help make arrangements for us. That is his main business. But after we have achieved many of our goals, and we find that they do not bring us the fulfillment and the satisfaction and the happiness that we thought they would, then we become somewhat unhappy. We become miserable. We become dejected. We become depressed. So, because you have all of these things, maybe you have wealth, you have power or influence, you have beauty, you have fame, you have all of these different things. You have material knowledge, you have PhDs and this, that, and the other thing. But none of this really brings you any permanent happiness. You only have some temporary satisfaction, and then it's gone. You have it, and then it's gone. You get the degree, you have your diploma, fine, you feel great, you feel wonderful, and that's okay. But then what's the next challenge? So our life is a succession of various challenges which we try to achieve, and after we achieve them, we then feel some emptiness. We feel something that's missing. We feel that we're somehow incomplete. And that incompleteness manifests in a desire for something more. More pleasure for the tongue, the eyes, the ears, the nose. More pleasure for the of the intelligence. More pleasure for the imagination. So there is constant need and desire for the pleasure, but it ultimately brings us unhappiness, because in the final analysis we have to leave it all. Everything that we've achieved, everything we've acquired, everything we've accomplished, all these things that I mentioned, beauty and wealth and strength and power and fame and material knowledge, all, we have to leave them all. So you have so many accomplishments, and then what happens at the time of death? Big zero, nothing. You have nothing to show for it. And what's more, in your next life, you can't even remember that you accomplished something in this life. Kind of pathetic. Working hard, and then ultimately having nothing really to show for it. And the pleasure that you got when you got them, you don't even have that anymore, because that only lasted a short while. It gives you just a temporary little lift, a little feeling of accomplishment, but that's gone. It's like when you're going to school. You go to the 2nd grade, okay, then you get promoted, and you go to the 3rd grade. You feel, now I'm in the 3rd grade. I've really accomplished something. And then, but in a week or two, you're wondering how soon it will be till I get to the 4th grade. What? Because anxiety, always wanting more, bigger, greater, grander, higher. This is our tendency. And when you get the next higher, now I'm in the 4th grade, I can't wait till I get to the 5th grade, because there in the 5th grade they'll teach me this kind of mathematics, and they'll teach me a language, and they'll teach me something about how to write English in a certain way, that maybe I can be a writer, or that we'll get some subjects that we don't have here, which my brother has, my cousins, they're studying this, and I'm not studying this, so I'm feeling some inferiority. I'll never forget one time when I was in junior high school. It's a personal, I generally don't like to talk too much personal, but I do remember I was in the 7th grade, and I was not very good in mathematics, and it was noted on my record. So most of my friends, they were given algebra, and they didn't give me algebra. They felt that I was not intelligent enough in mathematics to understand algebra, at least at that point. And I was feeling such inferiority. Mm-hmm. And I dreamt, I still remember that dream. I was turning and tossing, and I kept thinking of going to the teacher who had prevented me from taking the mathematics. I still remember her name, Miss Fody. And because it was such an insult, everybody was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm getting algebra. I've got algebra." But I was left out of the crowd. I was a dummy, the fool, the dunce cap. So I went. I asked for an appointment, and I said, "Well, she was also a very mean teacher, really mean. I mean, she didn't have a warm word for anyone." So I said, "Ms. Fody, I really would like to take algebra." She says, "You're not capable of understanding algebra." She said, "You'll flunk." I said, "But at least give me a chance." She says, "No, I won't give you, because it'll be a waste of the teacher's time and a waste of your time. So you wait till the next semester, you take this more basic type of arithmetic, and if you pass that, then we will consider you for algebra." Actually, I wish they never had given me any algebra. They did give it to me later on. When I got into high school, I actually took advanced algebra. And I was determined to become very good at it, for no other reason, just to prove that they were wrong. So a friend of mine, I remember the last term of high school, they give this advanced algebra. My mother, she saved a report card because after she died, she left a bunch of things, and I saw there was my report card. So my friend and I, we studied all past examinations. I mean, we went through every question that could ever possibly be raised. And on this entire exam, which may have had about 50 different questions, I think I got one wrong. So I got a 98 on that examination. This was the dummy who would not be allowed to take algebra. In the 7th grade, was now getting a 98, which would be actually an A, in the last grade of high school, I think they call it the 12th grade. So my point is that this feeling of inferiority, you see, that we are sometimes subjected to, and we have to understand that what is important and really what is not important. So getting back to this inferior energy and superior energy, so therefore what makes it inferior is that the body, as I said, without the soul in it, is non-functional. Krishna mentions that for the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. It has not come into being, it doesn't come into being, and it will not come into being. It is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. It is not slain when the body is slain. And that which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to slay the imperishable soul. As the trying to remember that to some. There's one particular verse in which it is mentioned that just as the sun illuminates the entire universe, so does the soul, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So the soul being in the heart area, the energy is coming out of the soul. And that energy is an emanation. It's like the emanation of the sun. We call it sunshine. So the emanation of the soul is known as consciousness. So consciousness is emanating from the soul. And that consciousness, it enters, it's an energy, and it enters into the heart, the actual heart, physical heart. And then it is distributed through the circulatory system to all the other systems of your body. It enters like, you might call it like lifetrons, like electrical prana. So it enters into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream it then goes to the different systems. It goes to it goes to your respiratory system, as I just mentioned, and then the respiratory system, it sends it through the rest of your body, and then it reaches your digestive system, and it reaches your glandular system, it reaches your nervous system, it reaches the whole brain system, it reaches all the arteries and the veins and the capillaries, the whole endocrine system, also the evacuatory system or the eliminatory system. So all these systems are receiving this prana. It is receiving this energy of the soul, consciousness. And for that reason, we can feel these different parts operative. Like I can feel my fingers now, I can feel my nose now. But if that energy doesn't reach a particular part, then what happens is that that part gradually becomes non-functional, because it needs to have the energy there. That energy is responsible for the creation of new cells and also the elimination of old cells which have to leave the body, and also the elimination of the wastes which are in all the different cells, which are then eliminated through different ways, through breathing, through the skin, pores, through the evacuatory systems, urinary systems, defecation system. All of this takes place through the energy of the soul, which is enabling it to go on. Very often, if a person, if something is blocking the energy from reaching a particular part of the body, then that part, it may become gangrenous. Gangrene, you know, it becomes diseased because there is no blood circulating in it. And the blood is very important to circulate in order for us to have contact there. So, I try to at least give us some understanding of the inferior energy and the superior energy of the Supreme Lord. But actually, it is all spiritual. Is that all clear now? That everything is spiritual because it comes from the Supreme Lord, whom we can never call, we cannot call him material. Especially since when the Lord appears, he is never affected, he is never disturbed, he is never rattled by any of the material energies. He himself says, none of this affects me, none of this can harm me. I'm detached from all of this, he says. And that's because he is pure spirit. So he who is pure spirit is always spiritual, but as I said, there are different classifications or grades of energy. So now I'll move on to this. Any questions on this particular point? Okay. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning again because I took you a little far. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end, he will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, the Rig Veda 122.20, as Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha, which again is being differentiated from this material world here. But the dividing line between the spiritual world and the material world is the Viraja River, or Viraja Ocean is also called. And that is where Karanadakashayi Vishnu, where he rests, in between spiritual world and material world. On the spiritual world, the sky is called the Paravyom, or it is infinite light. That light emanates from Krishna's body. Okay? And then in that light, or in that Paravyom, there are numerous Vaikuntha planets, the highest of which is known as Goloka. Goloka, Vrindavan. That even in that Goloka, Vrindavan, the Goloka area is where Krishna tends cows. And in that same area, there is also, there are three, it is divided into three parts. The Goloka, Vrindavan, and there's also Dwarka, that's also there, and also Mathura is also there. So different devotees have different relationships with Krishna. And as a result of those kinds of relationships which they want to have with him, for example, in Goloka, generally you have persons who are very much into the farming type community. They have cows there. They raise cows. They're like farm persons. They're very simple in their activities. And they all love Krishna, and they don't see Krishna as the Supreme Lord. They also see him as a cowherd boy. But then you get to Mathura, and things are different. Things are more formal. things are more sophisticated. Things are a lot more refined. That's the best way I can put it. The clothing is different. You know, in Vrindavan, they just wear farm clothes, you know, nothing so... Whereas in Mathura and Dwarka, they wear what you call royal type of clothing. And also in Vaikuntha, the different Vaikuntha planets. There are many Vaikuntha planets. We're headed by Lord Vishnu. The important point is that we should be desiring to go to this Vaikuntha, to this higher region across this Viraja river. Why? Because this is known as the place of non-anxiety. Why is there no anxiety? Anxiety is just worries. Because nobody has any worries. Everybody is very satisfied. Everyone is content. Everyone is very happy. And why is that? Because they're all lovingly serving Krishna. Either they serve him as a prince or they serve him as a cowherd boy. But everyone is serving him in one way or another. And everyone is experiencing transcendental bliss, transcendental peace, transcendental strength, transcendental love. And they're expressing all of this for Krishna. So that is the main point there, that there's no anxiety there because there's no reason for there to be anxiety. And what that tells us is that even here in the material world we can become free of anxiety if we have this mentality, which Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, called the surrender mentality. That's what the verse mainly emphasizes. Krishna says, O scion of Bharat, a scion is a descendant, one who's descended from the Bharat dynasty. Surrender unto him utterly, completely, not partially, not halfway. And that him means Krishna. He's talking about himself in the third person. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. I just want to read this last sentence here. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narada Muni, Asita, Devala, and Vyasdev. So the important word here in this particular verse is surrender. So what does it really mean to surrender to Krishna? To surrender to Krishna means, for example, if you're on a battlefield and you confront the enemy, and you know the enemy is more powerful than you, and that if you do not surrender, you will be killed. You know this. You can see so many people dying all around you, and you know you're next if you don't surrender. That enemy is more powerful, more capable, more knowledgeable. Now, if you love your life and you want to keep living, then you just put up your arms. Or nowadays they raise a white flag and they raise it kind of like this. And that tells you, I surrender. So please don't kill me. But surrender means I will do what you ask me to do. I will not fight you anymore. I will not oppose you. I will not challenge you. I will not doubt you. I will do whatever you ask me to do. Because if I don't, then there goes my life. That's the end of me. Meaning the body, of course. So, in the case of Krishna, now our tendency in this material world is to try to be a lord. You know, you're a lord of your family, you boss your children, or your wife bosses you. Sometimes.
I think many times. Like
Many times, okay. I don't know about this. I'm wearing the saffron cloth, so and I was never married, so it's a question. It's a for me it's a question mark. But yeah, I know that in my own family, my mother used to sometimes howl at my father. But interestingly enough, he was very controlled and very calm. He never shouted back at her ever. And I was always amazed by this. He would just let her go on and on and on and on and on, and finally she would run out of gas. Gas running out of screaming, shouting. And I used to hate when the weekend came, because during the week he was at work and she was busy, managing the household. And finally Sunday would come and there was nothing to do except scream and complain. You don't give me enough money. Yeah, why don't you make more money? And I used to dread this Sunday. I tried to go out and play basketball, or just so I wouldn't have to hear this. And it was my mother in a completely different mood. Actually, she would be raging. And as I said, my father never shouted back. He was taught that from his parents. You don't scream and you don't shout at women because you only worsen the problem. So anyway, finally when she would run out of, he says, "Are you ready to talk now? Can we sit down and have a conversation? All right, what do you have to say now?" He says, "Okay, this is how we'll try to solve the problem." And then he would deal with it in a very reasonable, very understandable. But my mother was a very emotional type of person, and therefore the little things would make her, become disturbed. Because she was abused as a child. Her father used to beat her very badly. And they were poor. They didn't have any money, very much. They had a little candy store. And she was the oldest. And so she had to take care of the other children, plus she had to work in the store. And her father, he didn't waste any time. If he told her to do something, and for some reason she didn't do it, he would just slap her right across the face, or punch her, whatever. He would not... in Europe, and then she would never forget. You see, that's how she would always remember to do things. But it created such vengeance in her heart, such hostility. So if my father would, in her mind, would mistreat her, she saw my father as her father. And therefore it was all that revenge that would be coming out in the form of this. Anyway, the important point that I'm trying to make, in fact, in this particular verse, we were talking about surrender. So by not fighting or not trying to assume the position of God, we've come into this world to be served. That's the important point. We enjoy being served. We enjoy being honored. We enjoy being glorified. We enjoy hearing our name mentioned, in the congregation, so-and-so is given $500,000 or $500 or whatever, and people, they all applaud like that. But we enjoy all of this. Well, actually, we shouldn't enjoy any of that, because really, that money belongs to Krishna. And you gave it up.